Today, we're going to be talking about the coronavirus and the rapture. So today's going to be pretty interesting because the coronavirus is pretty much just taking off right now in the United States. I think there's probably about 500,000 cases or so, which we'll look at here in a couple of seconds. And of course, the internet is exploding with the rapture and stuff. And so, it begs the question, does this stuff have anything to do with the rapture? Does this mean that Jesus is coming back? Well, it's definitely something to talk about. And that's what we're going to do in this video. We're going to talk about it. But before we get a little too far into this video, I just want to take a couple of seconds to tell you about my YouTube channel and why I think you should subscribe. First of all, this is a Bible study channel, and what we do here is study the Bible because we take the Bible seriously, and we seriously study the Bible. So, if you are looking for a Bible study that's online, that's absolutely free, you just found it, and you can go ahead and click subscribe and the bell notification. Oh, and I forgot to tell you, my name is Adam Jordan Clark, and I publish a brand new video every single day. And today, we're going to be talking about the coronavirus and the rapture. So let's go ahead and look at some numbers for the coronavirus, because that's what you're all interested in, aren't you? Aren't you? We come here to the internet. All of this stuff, I'll have all this stuff linked below, these websites. Pretty generic stuff. As we can see here, we got lots of numbers. I mean, it's this coronavirus, COVID-19, is pretty much in every country around the world. And this is a website that basically just tells you about the number of cases, about 1.5 million cases total that have been counted, nearly 100,000 deaths globally. These are the global numbers. About 300,000 people recovered. 400,000 people are closed cases. For whatever reason, we look at the graphs, it's basically just gone straight up, yada, yada, yada. Here in the United States, we have almost 500,000 cases. 10,000 new cases today. A lot of deaths. So it's not good. Spain's looking pretty bad. Italy's looking pretty bad. Germany's looking bad. France is, all of Europe is looking bad, actually. So it is no bueno. When we come over here, we look at the Johns Hopkins Center. We can just zoom in on the map and look at Europe. It's not looking too hot. Originally, this came out in Wuhan, China. Somewhere, I think that's the Hubei province right there. And so, it's just really taken off. If you look at this map here, it's really showing you how much it's grown. Here's another website. This is some scientist website. It is called NextStrand, and this is basically where you can come here and look at viruses if you want to. This is basically all the mutations for the coronavirus, and as you can see, this is how it is spread across the world. You can click the play button, and it'll show you how it is done. We'll speed it up because I want it to go a lot faster. But yeah, I mean, this is all the mutations that have taken place, and it's actually pretty cool. This is like this is real live data. It's inserted in here, so it's pretty cool. You should check it out. It's linked below. Here's another website that I found that's very interesting. And basically what this website does is it's a projection of models. It's a supposed model of what will happen anywhere in the world, actually. So you can type in whatever you want. I just have the United States typed in because I live in America, and, we're talking about America. And so here's what they're predicting will happen. Today is April 8th, and they are saying that the peak would be probably about April 13th. So we got about a week to go. And it tells you about ICU beds, how many beds we have, how many beds we need, what's the shortage, things of that nature. And so you can come here, you could type in states if you want. We go to New York. I don't live in New York, but they are having some bad outbreaks up there. Their peak is actually supposed to be today. And so their quote unquote curve is supposed to be flattened. And here's what's happened. And so it's a pretty interesting website. You should go ahead and take a look at it. But anyways, the point of the matter is that, things are going bad, and, they may or may not get better. And I think the question that we really need to be focused on is not flattening the curve. I mean, that's a no-brainer. The real question we need to be focused on, what happens after you flatten the curve? And this is something nobody's talking about simply because, a lot of people just don't think ahead. A lot of people live day to day and they think, whatever's happening today is all I care about. Most people don't think about what's happening next week or 2 weeks or a month down the road. Here we are in April, and I would say you're definitely going to be on quarantines or lockdowns or social distancing, whatever you want to call it, at least for the month of April. That's obvious. It'll probably extend some into May, probably most likely into June. That's what I think. I'm pretty certain of that. But the question is, what is the world going to look like in 2 months? What's the United States going to look like in 2 months? And I can tell you it's not going to look very good. So that's something you should be highly concerned about. That's something you should be thinking about very clearly, because the point of the matter is like you just can't shut business down in America and fire a whole bunch of people, aka lay them off. They got fired, but you can't go fire millions and millions and millions of people and expect that, when everybody comes out of quarantine, everything's just going to be fine. Economies don't work that way. That's not how this is going to work. This is going to be a little bit different. It's actually going to be much different. People are talking about a recession. People are talking about a depression. And what I'll tell you straight up is that it's not a recession and it's not a depression. We're going to have to come up with a whole new word to describe what this actually is, because we don't know what it is. Economically speaking, it's a disaster. So things are not going to be looking good in June and July and August, and there's no switch. It's just going to flip it back on. That doesn't work. That doesn't exist. We're looking at, we're going to flatten the curve of the disease, and then we're going to be left with another catastrophe, which is nobody's going to have jobs, and everybody's going to go bankrupt. So this is not good. It's very bad. But today we're going to talk about the Bible, or at least for the rest of this video. And this is going to be really interesting because I've noticed that a lot of people on the internet always, whenever there's a disease or something, people always go to the whole rapture thing and they say, well, there's pestilence in the Bible. We're going to look at it. But the whole pestilence thing is just, quite frankly, it's absurd. And I'm going to show you why it's absurd. Okay. What we do here on this channel is we like to talk about the evidence. And what my goal here is to do on this channel is to not pick a view and then shove that view down your throat and tell you that you have to believe that view because I'm the one telling you have to believe it. To me, that's nonsense. That's what most Christians do, and I'm not really a fan of it. I don't think that helps anybody. Instead, what I think helps people is teaching people how to think critically, teaching people scholarly methods, and showing people the evidence. In our modern world, we believe that there's evidence and there's rationality, and so we look at the evidence and we make logical conclusions based on the evidence. And so what I want to do today is talk a little bit about some of the textual evidence in Luke chapter 21, actually, because the only place where the word pestilence is used is in Luke 21. And in fact, it's actually used in another place. Well, we're going to talk about that in a minute. But it's not in Matthew chapter 24. It's not there. And so it's only in Luke 21. And it's quite frankly, just to get the cat out of the bag, it's talking about the destruction of Jerusalem that occurred in 70 AD. So this is talking about something that happened nearly 2,000 years ago. So it's a passage that's clearly taken out of context. But that's not the end. That's not the end all be all, right? That's ripping the Band-Aid off. There's so much more. There's you got to think of it of squeezing the juice out, if you will. There's so much more juice to squeeze out of this issue, and it's really fun to talk about it. And so I hope that we spend the next couple of minutes talking about it, and I hope you enjoy what I'll show you. So when we come here to Bible Gateway, I picked a Bible Gateway because of two reasons. Number one, it's something that a lot of people use, and number two, it's something that you're probably very familiar with. And when you come to Bible Gateway, it's amazing because if you want to get multiple passages in, you can just type multiple passages in with a semicolon. You can separate them by a semicolon, and then you scroll down and you can get Luke 21, and you can get Mark 13. But the only place that the word pestilence is used is here in Luke chapter 21. So that's this passage right here. And it is in verse 11. And here's what it says. In verse 11, it says, "And there will be great earthquakes in various places and plagues and famines, and there'll be terrors and great signs from heaven." And so this is where people pause. They take this proof text out and they say, look, there's earthquakes. Just a couple days ago, there was an earthquake in Idaho, and there's been some earthquakes in Texas, which is actually kind of weird. And there's been earthquakes all over the world. People say, look, it's in the Bible. Look, there's earthquakes happening. Jesus is coming back. And what people don't understand is context. Context is king. And the context is like super, 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 super important. And context is not, oh, I just read it blatantly. That's it. That's not what context is. Context is going deep into it. And that's what I want to show you in the rest of this video. I kind of want to make it pretty quick too. But context is not just about reading it in the English. It's also about reading it in the original language. It's also about looking at how that word or how those words are used by different authors. And so that's what I want to show you in the rest of this video. So when we go to Blue Letter Bible, and this is a website I've talked a lot about, it'll be linked below. But when you go to Blue Letter Bible, we're able to pull up the Greek. And the Greek here is basically plagues, if you will. And so when we come here and we look at the word plagues, there's the Greek word for plagues. It's only used a couple of times. And here's what it means. It basically means a plague, a disease, or a pest, or a pestilence. I mean, that's basically what the Greek word means. And here's some lexicon information. And here's some passages where it's used. Now, here's what's very interesting. I want to focus on this part for a couple of seconds. Let me just tell you that this Greek word is only used 2 times in the New Testament in the New American Standard. Okay, it's used in Luke 21 and Acts 24. And here's what it says in Acts 24. It says, "For we have found this man a real pest." The word pest there is the same Greek word that's used for plagues or pestilence in Luke 21. Why does that matter? Well, it matters because this word can be translated as a pestilence or a disease or a plague or something of that sort. But it also matters because whoever wrote the Gospel of Luke also wrote the book of Acts. Okay, so it's the same author. So it's the same author who's using the same Greek word, but he's using it in 2 different ways. One way he's saying, look, there'll be plagues or pestilence or whatever. On the other hand, he's saying that man's a pest. Okay, so he's using this Greek word in a very, very particular kind of way, which shows you that there's a variety, right? So lots of times when you have variety, it tells you that the context is very broad. Well, the fact that the context is broad tells you that this could not be talking about a narrow issue. I mean, that's basically what it means. So we're pretty certain. I mean, we already know that Luke 21 is talking about the destruction of Jerusalem. Everybody knows that. That's no secret. And this is the only place where the word pestilence is found. And so, and pestilence here is referring to some type of plague or disease or something. Basically, long story short, here's what happened in Jerusalem in 70 AD. The Roman army came in, and basically they surrounded the city, and they starved the city by cutting off the food supply. And, you know, when you cut off the food supply, you starve. That's why there's famines. That's why famine's mentioned there. And also, you know, when you starve for 3 or 4 days or 3 or 4 months, disease begins to spread in the city because you're not allowed to leave the city. You can't clean the city, so on and so forth. And so disease spreads. So obviously that's where the word pestilence is used in Luke chapter 21. So it's pretty interesting. But the whole point of the matter is that I'm trying to tell you is that the coronavirus probably doesn't have anything to do with Jesus' second coming. I'm pretty certain of that. I don't think it has anything to do with the rapture. I'm pretty certain of that as well. At least scripturally, we can say that pretty confidently from Luke chapter 21. I just showed you some pretty good evidence to go and examine for yourself. The Greek can mean either a pestilence or a plague or a disease. It can also mean a pest. A person's a pest. You know, you're a pest. You're an annoying little person. And so that's what it can mean. Basically, the point of the matter is that Luke 21 does mention pestilence, but those pestilences referring to something that happened almost 2,000 years ago when an army came in and destroyed a whole city, and it has nothing to do with what we're talking about today. So the coronavirus is a real virus, and it really is spreading around the world, and it really is something to be a little bit concerned about. And of course, we have some economical, we have a crisis coming down the pike. I mean, it's just, we're going to be, you know, June and July and August, and pretty much the next couple of years, maybe even decades, it's not going to look very, it's not going to be pretty. It's going to be really, 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 really bad. Nobody knows what's going to happen. Basically, you can just bet on it being really, really, really bad. And so that's what we got to worry about in our world. 2,000 years ago, they were worried about being killed in Jerusalem, and a lot of people died in Jerusalem. So that's something to think about. A lot of people died in Jerusalem, and we're dealing with the coronavirus here. So there is a parallel, but I don't think that parallel has any type of relevance to our world. And so basically, we can simply conclude that the coronavirus has absolutely nothing to do with the rapture or Jesus coming back or his second coming or being sucked up into the sky or anything like that. Doesn't mean that Jesus is not coming back. Doesn't mean that there's no second coming. It does not mean that there's no rapture. Just simply means this particular issue doesn't have anything to do with Jesus' second coming. My name's Adam Jordan Clark. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to comment below and tell me something interesting or maybe a really cool story. And don't forget to subscribe because I publish a brand new video every single day. My name's Adam Jordan Clark. Thanks for watching. And as always, I'll see you in the next video.